Welcome to the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video, where better sleep starts with better understanding.
All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are tackling a question that keeps millions of women up at night. And I mean that literally. We're going to dive into that super frustrating, really complex, and deeply personal relationship between menopause and sleep. I mean, it's the question, right? It's the one that so many women in midlife are asking themselves. Maybe you used to sleep like a rock, and now it feels like this nightly battle. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. And the science, it totally backs you up.
Okay, just look at this number for a second. Over 40%. The landmark study of women's health across the nation, they call it the SWAN study, found that 40.3% of midlife white women have a hard time sleeping. And you know what? That number is even higher for other groups. So let's be super clear. This is not some personal failing. It is a well-documented physiological thing that really ramps up as women go through menopause.
So what is actually going on inside our bodies to cause all this chaos? Look, if we're going to find relief, we have to understand the root cause, right? So let's do that. Let's break down the main culprits behind why sleep takes such a hit during this time.
And you probably guessed it. Suspect number one is the hot flash. Yeah, at night we call them night sweats, and they are, without a doubt, a huge reason why so many perimenopausal and postmenopausal women are struggling to get a good night's sleep.
But what even is a hot flash? I mean, really, it's so much more than just feeling a little warm. It's actually this really complex thermal regulatory event. The best way to think about it is like your body's internal thermostat just goes completely haywire, And it triggers this sudden, super intense release of heat.
So here's how it goes down. First, boom, that sudden, intense feeling of heat. Your body freaks out a little and responds by rapidly widening the blood vessels right near your skin to dump that heat. That's called vasodilation. And then the sweating kicks in, which is basically your body's own evaporative cooling system. This whole abrupt process, it's more than enough to jolt you right out of a deep sleep.
Now, there are a bunch of things that can actually make hot flashes more frequent or even more severe. Surgical menopause, that's a really abrupt hormonal shift, is a big one. But lifestyle stuff like smoking and obesity, and even mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, they all play a pretty significant role too.
But here's something that's really confusing for a lot of women. You feel completely exhausted, but you don't actually remember waking up a bunch of times during the night. You just know your sleep felt shallow, like it didn't do anything. So what is going on when a hot flash doesn't fully wake you up?
Well, this is where sleep lab studies give us the answer. Researchers hooked people up to machines and found this thing called elevated beta EEG activity in menopausal women, especially the ones having hot flashes. Okay, so what does that even mean? Think of it this way. Beta waves are the waves your brain makes when you're awake and alert, like right now. So even when you are technically asleep, part of your brain is acting like it's still awake. It's in this state of hyperarousal. It's almost like you're trying to sleep with a radio on in the background, just loud enough to keep your brain from ever really powering down into that deep restorative rest. No wonder you feel exhausted. Okay, so hot flashes get a lot of the blame, and for good reason. But here's the thing, they're usually not the only culprit. I like to think of poor sleep in menopause like an onion. Hot flashes are that big, obvious outer layer. But once we start peeling that back, we find a whole bunch of other things that can either pop up or get way worse during midlife.
A huge one is something called sleep-disordered breathing, or SDB. This is the category that things like sleep apnea fall into. And just look at this chart, it's pretty stark. The risk for SDB just shoots up as women move through the menopausal transition. In fact, postmenopausal women are 2.6 times more likely to have moderate to severe SDB than premenopausal women. That's a massive jump.
So why does this risk go up so much? Well, there are a few things going on. Midlife weight gain is super common, right? And menopause is famous for shifting where we store fat, more toward the belly, and that can actually affect your airway. On top of that, you have the decline in hormones like progesterone, which actually helps stimulate breathing, so that plays a key part too.
It's almost never just one single thing. Poor sleep during menopause is often, a perfect storm. You've got the hot flashes crashing into a new sleep disorder like sleep apnea. Then, let's throw in the increased risk for depression and anxiety, which, by the way, can cause insomnia all on their own, creating this awful vicious cycle. And all of this might be happening right when life is throwing other major stressors at you, like caring for aging parents or dealing with financial worries. It's a whole cascade of challenges. Okay, so we've laid out all the problems. It might sound a little bleak, but now let's pivot and talk about solutions. Because here's the really good news. There are solid, evidence-based treatments that can bring real relief. The absolute key, though, is matching the right treatment to the right cause.
This table here gives us a great overview of the main pathways. So, if your sleep problems are really being driven by hot flashes, hormone therapy, or HT, can be super effective. But there are also great non-hormonal options out there. Some antidepressants, like SSRIs and SNRIs, can actually reduce hot flashes and help with mood. There's also gabapentin, another non-hormonal med that targets hot flashes and helps with sleep. Now, for just plain old insomnia, traditional hypnotics can help you fall asleep and stay asleep. But, and this is so important, if the real problem is a breathing issue like sleep apnea, then the gold standard treatment is a CPAP machine. Different problems, different tools.
And I really want to emphasize this point. While hormone therapy is a game changer for a lot of women, it is not a one-size-fits-all sleep aid. It's specifically for when hot flashes are the main villain causing the sleep disruption. And that distinction, it really drives home why getting to the bottom of your specific sleep issue is so critical.
It all comes down to this. Effective treatment starts with an accurate diagnosis. You just can't fix the problem if you don't know exactly what you're trying to fix. Is it about your body's thermostat? Is it an airway problem? Is it about your mood? Or is it a little bit of everything we've talked about? Figuring that out with your doctor, that is the single most powerful first step you can take.
Look, your sleep is not a luxury. It is a non-negotiable, fundamental pillar of your physical and your mental health. The path to getting better sleep during menopause is going to look different for every single woman. So the real question to leave you with is this. What's the right conversation for you to start with your doctor? What piece of this can you take to begin that journey?
Thank you for watching the Sleep to Dream Analytics Explainer video. We hope you sleep well and dream easy.